What is up, Isaac? How are you, sir?
I'm good, Ryan. Yourself? Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Good start to the week. You know,
Yes,
getting
yes, sir.
getting ready for another one. So how are you doing? How's the family?
Things are good. We're preparing for the worst. For those that are
Oh,
familiar, they've seen in the storm that's coming from the southwest to the
mm,
northeast. We're like right in the center of it. They're saying like 2+ feet of snow
wow,
Wednesday, Thursday. So we'll see
sounds
what comes.
fun.
But you know what? I got lots of board games. We can just play games and
That's
hang
true.
out. So
That's good. Hey, being the professional I am, I didn't realize that my camera battery was dying, and so I'm going to have to swap out the camera in just a second. So let's introduce Noah. Noah is with us.
start there.
Uh, Noah is from Restoration Games. What's up, Noah? How are you?
Hi, how are you guys?
Howdy,
Good.
howdy.
I'm going to let the two of you hang out for a minute while I swap out this camera because I'm an idiot. So
That's fair. It's a live show. This is what we
yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, we're
I could at least prepare just a little, but whatever. So
well, I'll start with our opening question. You come back and you'll join us for
I
the
got
end
I
of it.
got cool pictures to show off with our opening question.
I'll
So
skip to the second question.
There
We'll
you
come
go.
back
okay,
to the
there we
opening
go.
question.
Cool. Be
Okay.
right back.
So we're going to be talking about games that involve cars, games that involve driving, and specifically games that involve racing. And no, I don't know about you, but I went through a list and there weren't a lot of like racing games out there. So I'm excited to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, this is actually a genre that I don't have a lot of experience in, but I was able to come up with three that I enjoyed, some of which I don't actually remember the rules to because part of the reason I enjoyed them was I played them when I was younger. So
Oh, I'm
it's more the
excited to
memories
see.
than necessarily the mechanics.
I'm excited to see that. Well, one of the things we talked about was with the car, we get road trips, and I didn't grow up doing a lot of road trips. I don't know if you did. We've done some with. I have two teenage kids, so we've done a few. Nothing like across the country, but we've definitely taken some longer jaunts. And um, so I guess the question I wanted to ask, and first thing I think of always, road trip is a good snack. So what's Noah, if you're taking a long road trip, you're taking the car drive. What's your go-to snacks you have to have for the drive?
Oh, okay. Nowadays, I definitely like to include a little beef jerky in things.
Oh yeah.
But one that I definitely loved growing up was just trail mix, but um, not the stuff that you buy pre-made in a store. We would actually make it ahead of time, so we'd
Oh
do
yeah.
like buy a bag of mixed nuts and chocolate chips and uh, dried cranberries and just mix that up. So homemade trail mix was
Solid
definitely
choice.
my go-to.
Yeah, I love a good trail mix and beef jerky. A little high in the salt for me at times, but I love it. Like I wish I could eat more of it, but
It's so good. I wish it was better
uh,
for you.
I know, right? It's so good. So for me, I got two. I love trail mix. I totally agree with you. I love making my own stuff and getting, like you said, the craisins, the chocolate chips. But there's one particular, this trail mix of the carrot Costco. It's like an indulgent trail mix, and it's a peanut butter lovers trail mix. And I'm a huge peanut butter
Mm,
chocolate guy. And it's got like the little mini Reese's and like Reese's pieces and the peanut butter, the pretzels that they fill with peanut butter,
oh, they're
like
not
little
kidding.
like little mini versions of that, and then
Okay.
peanuts, and then it's got some other like little peanut like malt peanut butter thing. Like it's like my son when we got it treated it like it was regular trail mix, which you grab handfuls of
Full.
that. But he was like, I'm like, dude, you're 15, like you can eat this stuff, but you got to be careful, dude. That's like most of your fat for the week in that. So
Yeah, that
um,
entire bag will stick to the roof of your mouth.
there we got Ryan back. So we're talking the snacks, Ryan, for a car
What's
trip, a
up?
road trip. Noah covered his trail mix, beef jerky. I went with the
Yeah.
indulgent peanut butter trail mix. My other one that I really love, there is a nut company that's in the Detroit area. And right now, for whatever the name escapes me off the top of my head, but they make these great different flavors and styles. And they have this Cajun spice nut mix with the little sesame
Nice.
sticks and like I hate monotonous driving, so having something that kind of like gives you that like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, we got the flavor kicking. I love something like that. So those are my
I,
two go-tos.
yeah. I will tell you, I've gotten into talking about monotonous driving. Um, I have gotten into sunflower seeds while you're driving, just because it kind of keeps you doing something, you know.
Yep.
Especially driving to Ohio for Origins. I always have like some sunflower seeds that I can, you know, chomp on.
Yep.
One of our go-to like driving things anytime we're going on a big trip or something is a thing called Alabama firecrackers. Do you know anything about those?
I've never heard of those.
Okay. Alabama firecrackers is basically you take an entire box of saltines
Okay.
and you make a mix of either canola oil or olive oil or something like that, and you make it with what is it? Red pepper flakes, garlic, cracked pepper, and a packet of ranch, like a Hidden Valley dry packet of ranch. Mix
Okay.
it all together, pour it over the top of the entire bag of saltines, mix it together, and let it sit for about 18 to 24 hours. And it is ridiculous. And I like adding a little cayenne to it to make it a little hotter. The kids just kill those things. Yeah.
That sounds really tasty. I'll have to give that a try.
It's really good. They call them Alabama firecrackers, I think. That's what I've seen them online as. Yeah. So Bob's had those. He's had the version I've made, and then somebody at work actually made them in his group. So yeah.
So you're bringing some to Origins next year?
Yeah, I'll bring them next year. Yeah, they'll last. That's the thing. Like when we make them, we'll make them for the Super Bowl. We'll make them for a birthday and stuff like that. We'll make them when we go on a road trip, and they last only a couple hours because people are just plowing through them. They're so good.
That's awesome.
Super unhealthy, but they're delicious.
Saltines are basically flavored cardboard. You're just adding more flavor.
Exactly. Super flavored cardboard. So
we talked about the idea that we're talking about driving games. We're talking about the road trip idea. So we started with the snacks, but what was our other question, Brian?
So our intro question was, what was our first car? So I actually went out and grabbed images of very similar to our very first cars so that we could pop them up on the screen while we talk about them. So Noah, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so the first car I ever owned was a 98 Toyota Corolla, beige with a little pinstripe along it. And this isn't my car, but if you told me it was, I would believe you, including the left rear wheel well damage.
That's awesome.
But this was actually, it was my grandmother's car. And when I was old enough to drive, she was basically done with driving, so she sold it to me for $1. And then I drove it for another 15 years, 20 years. It's
wow, you made that thing last.
Oh yeah, it's a Toyota. Those I mean,
we've got two Toyotas,
mostly optional. So
yeah, we have two Toyotas. We know we love our Toyotas actually. So
it's awesome.
Those things will run on spit and vinegar.
That's right. So my very first car was a 93 Ford Mustang hatchback. If you look it up online, you'll find Cobras everywhere. This was a lot closer to my version. It was not a Cobra. But it had a hatchback. It was the last year that they made hatchbacks. I put some racing stripes on the front of it, up the back of it. Had a gigantic subwoofer in the trunk because it was a hatchback. I mean, what do you do with that? You know, you buy a hatchback to put overly huge subwoofers in there. Mm-hmm. And so this is very similar to the car that I bought. Bought it when I was 16, turning 17, maybe somewhere around there. Bought it from a auto body shop that a friend of ours ran. So yeah.
That's awesome. We got a couple people dropping their cars in the chat.
Oh yeah, let me chime in there. Hold on one second. Let's see.
We got Jazz joining us from the lobby.
Yep. Got the 90 Chevrolet Capri Classic was my first car. Whew, rough. 66 Ford Mustang.
Ooh, that's nice.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Pink Prius.
I did not, but I would if I had one. And Jazz's is like super.
Jazz just writes a book. So, Buick Century, white with blue cloth interior, driver's side window that didn't work, and it was stuck in a 2-inch crack opening. So cardboard, yep, held the window. Yeah, yeah. So
Classic.
stuff.
Classic. I'm
Great
rocking
first-
my lobby hobbies today, Jazz. Got my shirt
awesome.
on here. So thanks for joining us, Jazz. So we're down to my car.
Yes.
I had what my dad thought was going to be like. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna love this car." And when I got it, I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe if I was 40 years older, but it had the old man look. It was an 88 Oldsmobile Tornado, and it was
Ooh.
pretty much like that. You could see it in the other picture you had, but if you look at the front, the headlights, they had like a cover. So when you powered it on, the cover like dropped down into the thing. And
There we go.
it was that like, oh my gosh, this car is so fancy type of thing, when really it was just, one little extra thing that broke all the time. So
Yeah. It's kind of like the old man version of Knight Rider. It's like it's almost Knight Rider, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was hot. That was hot, Bob, for sure.
That's really fun.
Well, that's what we rode. We talked about what we like to eat when we're doing those road trips. But it's interesting too. This isn't on our script, but Ryan and I were going back and forth a little bit today. There's a difference between a racing game and a race game, according to BGG, which I thought was really interesting, because I started thinking of all sorts of games where you're racing to the end, but it wasn't really a racing game, right? Like who can score this many points first, right? Like I love Res Arcana, and we're all racing to a point total.
Settlers of Catan.
Oh yeah, we're racing to this point total, right? But we're talking a little different world today. So
yep, basically first to the end. So that's kind of what we're. So and these can be car themed games if we want them to be. They don't have to be. I know one of mine is not a car themed game, but there's so many great ones out there. When Isaac and I were talking about it, I was naming off Flamme Rouge, the bicycle game. That one, Rick taught us how to play that one. It's just really fun. It's very unique. There's Bob has a game. I think it's one of his Grail games. It's a horse racing game. It's just like there's so many really cool racing games. So why don't we start with Noah first, talking about his we're just gonna say three favorites. So we'll start with number 3.
Yeah. So number 3 is one that I had the pleasure of playing fairly recently, past year or so, called Camel Cup. I'm sure you're both familiar with it. It's
Camel Cup.
It's a fairly standard little roll and move style racing, where no one controls any of the camels. They just do what they do. And the thing that I like about it is that you're not the pilot or the driver or the controller of these camels. They are going. There is very little that you can do. There's some things you can do to adjust how they move, but mostly you're playing the better. You are just observing the race, and you're trying to make clever bets around it. And it has a couple cool mechanics, like the camel stacking mechanism, and the upside down pyramid for the dice. But I like how it kind of flips the race on. You're watching the race and you're reacting to it. I like that part.
Yeah.
I love it. It's a great game.
So so Camel Up or Camel Cup? So
my friend and I decided that we were just going to call it Amel Cup.
Amel Cup. Oh, that makes
I like
sense.
that.
Yeah.
Amel's Cup.
drop the C from the animal's name completely. It's awesome. So completely
what I
throw away
heard was that
convention.
they actually couldn't decide whether they wanted it to be Camel Up or Camel Cup, so that's how they made that graphic design decision.
Yeah.
And they just made us fight over it instead.
There we go. So let's cause a real rift in the board game industry. So.
I love calling it Camel Cup just because of how much people are so insistent the other way. And even like the reprint, right? It's very distinctly Camel Up, right?
Yeah.
But the Z-Man
Camel
version is Camel Cup. Yeah, it's Camel Cup. It totally makes sense. So I'm with Noah. Camel Cup, 100%.
That's funny. That's
awesome.
Cool.
Game.
So a game that I love that actually I think is a little better than Camel Up is Downforce. Restoration Games, of course, but Downforce is one of those odd games that is so easy to teach. I mean, once you get past the bidding mechanism in the very beginning. I think it's hard to teach a new player that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and actually one of the ways that we got around it was I was teaching a family who doesn't play board games at a school after school board game night that we hosted at a local school, and I just basically just let them pick their cars, before they, so but Downforce is such a good game, and the fact that you've got 6 maps available, that you can choose from. I mean, I love swapping out. The other thing that I love is that the size of the F1 cars are the same size as a micro machine. So I just take my micro machines. Micro machines are back on the scene. I take micro machines, throw them on the board. We have a great time with it.
I've seen people make a lot of really creative substitutions for those, and that's a fun thing about the racing games that are all of the correct scale. You can all kind of swap them for whatever cars you like, and then play with whichever rule set you're using the board game for.
Yep. Yeah. So got some beard love in the chat. So all of us with the beards. So
thanks.
It's the winter. I need to grow out my chin protection.
Yeah, I do play a lot of Downforce. One of my favorite Downforce stories is that we were I took Downforce with us to Thanksgiving one year about 4 or 5 years ago, and taught my wife's family how to play, and we played 7 back-to-back games of Downforce. Every time we finished a game, 2 people would leave the table, 2 more people would jump in. We always had a table of 5 or 6, and it just kept going, and we just swapped out boards. Yeah, and so it was really, really good. So that's one of my favorites.
Look, Rick showed up before the end of the show today. That's
Rick.
Nice.
So we're
early
actually
for him.
We need to have Rick on the show because I feel like this is going to bond us back together. Me and Rick Rick is one of the writers at One Board Family, and he comes on to harass us. But usually he comes in at the very end. So it's fun. It's really good.
If you've ever listened to the Will It Game podcast, he's the half that has the horrible game recommendation.
That's true. That's true. So
sorry, Rick.
So what's your number 3 game?
I am going to go with one. So I put in our Facebook group, kind of asking people what were some racing games they enjoyed, games they like, and completely forgot about this one. This one is such a good big player game because it goes up to 8. My friends, Jason and Becky, who I know are watching right now, Jason commented on the car. They like to collect Japanese themed games because their son studies Japanese, and they introduced us to Shikoku.
So good.
And I was like, wow, this is such a fun, different type of game. It's a race to not be first and not be last, but try to be somewhere in between. Right.
Yeah.
And I love, you're trying to ascend this level of 33 steps towards enlightenment. You don't want to be first. You don't want to be last. You win as long as you're not first or last. So it's a different kind of race. And you're playing cards to move up and down this staircase.
Yeah.
And the game ends in such a oh, no, wait. Oh, okay, it's over. Type of feel. So super solid.
Yeah, so that I brought that to work a bunch of times and really had a fun time with it. I mean, that was one of those games where we got super competitive because we knew that we could screw over other people by playing a card. It's basically this order of where whatever number you play in the sequence, you're playing in the middle or at the end or something like that. There's so many layers to Shikoku that work so well. Grand Gamers Guild imported that one to the US. It is a fantastic racing game.
Super solid.
So good. And the fact that it supports up to 8 players is even better. So yeah.
I'll have to give it one to try.
Yeah, it's super good. So yep. So
all right, back to you, Noah.
Yep.
All right. Number 2 is one that I mentioned this earlier, but I actually don't remember all of the rules to it because we played it when I was very little. My brother, my father, and I, and it's called Win Place Show. and it is a racetrack, but a derby, a horse racetrack. And the way it works is everyone gets a betting card. They get the same betting card, and it's that race is with those horses for that track. And there's a series of races that you're going to be playing through. And it's from the 1960s, so it's a very simulationist, as opposed to a lot of newer games. But they'll tell you, this horse comes out strong and then kind of falters in the middle, or this one is pretty middling all the way through but dependable, or this one, if you get lucky, will have some really good stuff, but if you don't get lucky, then they're not going to be great. And it has just a fun little assemblage of mechanics. But the thing that I like about it is that you are buying horses and you're betting on horses, and the horses that you bet on can be your own. But the one mechanic I do remember was something called the foul, where if you think that someone is throwing the race because they bet on a horse that wasn't theirs, then you can do this at any point during the race if they do one of a couple different things. So that part's a little nebulous. But if you think that they're throwing the race, then you can cry foul, and you lodge a complaint. And at the end of the game, if they bet on a horse other than their own to win, then there's a payout to you as like a penalty. They have to give you some money. I don't remember the amount. If they did bet on their own and it proves that, they were trying as hard as they could, they just, weren't doing the right thing because they didn't see it or whatever, then then you have to pay them. So I liked that little twist on things, is that, there's this mechanic for you should be betting on and buying the horses that you think are going to win, because that makes sense. Instead of buying anything as cheap as you can and then betting on other horses. Well, if you're not going to try, even if you get lucky, there's this little tension there. It doesn't come up a whole lot, but that's one of the rules I remembered because my brother would always cry foul.
Nice. So did you play this one when you were growing up, or is this one that you played recently?
This is one that my dad had played growing up, and it was his set that we played with.
Nice. Nice.
So yeah, this was old when I was young, and it's certainly older now, but it was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So going away from the car, going away from my first pick of car-based racing, Eldorado, Quest for Eldorado, Reiner Knizia this is such a solid game. One Board Family is all about playing playing games with your family and your kids, and multi-generational gaming. This is almost like a staple. This is like one of those things where if this isn't on your shelf, like, what are you doing with your life and your choices? Quest for Eldorado is just so much fun, and I love that it works so well at 2 players too, because both players have to work with two explorers at that point, which is really, it kind of adds another wrinkle, because now one of them is kind of lagging behind. So now you're like, okay, how much do I push this one, or do I just push ahead with this other explorer? It's just really, really good. So, and you've got multiple expansions that you can add to the game if you like it. So
nice.
Awesome. We had a few comments on a few games.
Yeah. So we've got, what about Mosaic?
I don't think it's a racing game.
Yeah, I don't remember cars in that one.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, and then let's see, automobiles. That one right there.
I haven't played that in a long time.
I've never played automobiles. So, isn't that a deck builder?
I thought it was. I know Planes is, right?
Okay.
Because maybe I haven't played automobiles. I know I played Planes.
Okay.
So my number 2, I don't have a copy of, but when we went to the Gamers Ranch a couple of years ago, and shout out to the Gamers Ranch, if you guys haven't been there, you gotta get there, right? We've talked about it. I don't know if we've gone into much detail on the show about it, but
but we should definitely talk, because that's something that I want to know more about. I know a little about it, but I think there's a lot of people who would be interested.
We could definitely have David on and see if he wants to talk about the guy who owns it. But
Nice.
Noah, have you heard of Gamers Ranch? You familiar with it?
I haven't.
It's a place out in St. Louis area. It's on just, I think it's like 20 plus acres. Guy built this huge house. It sleeps like 25 people. 4-acre pond in the middle of it that he dug out. And he has, like, if it's on BGG, he's got at least one copy of it in there. He's got 4 VR rigs. He's got a huge TV with a video game system in every bedroom. You name it. He had a LAN system set up with 12 computers that you could just get on and play some games. Like, it is a gamer's paradise.
It's crazy.
And we went with a group of friends, and it was great for like couples and families, because if, like, my wife loves the game but she doesn't want to do it 24/7, so she could go out and swim and, you know, hang out on the beach. He had an 18-hole frisbee disc golf course around the whole property. Like, it was amazing. So one of the games that he had, and he told me he has literally all of it, I said, I gotta play this, and we set it up on the ping pong table, was my number 2, just pitch car. And man, did we have fun playing pitch car. I made the track a little too crazy, I think, having never made it before.
A little out of control.
It was a little out of control, but it was fun. Like, everybody got a disc, tons of people could play it, right? And we could all just have fun flicking the disc around and racing them around the board. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing pitch car.
I've never played pitch car, but it's one of those games that I feel like I would have to buy all the stuff for, and I don't want to spend more money, you know? So, but I feel like I would really, really enjoy it.
That was a blast. It was a blast.
So awesome. So Noah, what's your number 1 racing game?
So number 1 has actually already been mentioned, and you know, maybe this is a little bit expected, but for me, number 1 is Downforce. I didn't actually work on that one, but I really enjoy playing it. The part that stands out to me is the ability to, you know, you have cars that you own, you have cars that you bet on, but you control all of them, and the way that you can, you know, sort of play your cards cleverly to sabotage cars that you're not betting on, even if if you look at the spread of cards in your hand, it looks like, oh man, black's going to go really far, but someone else managed to snag it, and I don't want to lose out on them, because if we're both betting on it, then, you know, they're going to come out ahead. So I'm going to try to just tank all the cards, and you can do that if you're playing cleverly. You can just keep always playing your card when black's going to get jammed up behind someone.
Yep.
So I really like that it's got a lot of strategy to it, and, you know, it holds up for me.
It's good.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Downforce,
great choice.
So
I love it.
Rallyman GT, during the pandemic, played this one on BGA, fell in love with it, had to own it immediately. Had to get a copy. So we were on vacation, actually. We went down to Florida to visit a friend, stopped in a game store. They had 2 copies of it, had to buy it. It is fantastic. I'm really excited about Rallyman Dirt when that comes out this year. That is definitely a game that I'm super excited about. And then Bob mentioned, how has Ryan not mentioned Formula D? So Formula D is a dice racing game. That is the most played game in my collection, and the reason why is I started a Formula D racing league at my job about 5 years ago, and that's actually how Bob and I got to know each other really well. Bob and a couple of his friends joined the Formula D racing league, and we had 8 to 10 people in it at all time. It was amazing. There was a championship at the end. We had a trophy, a handmade trophy that got traded off each time.
That's amazing.
We run 2 seasons, 10 races, and you could drop 2 races, so you didn't have to if you got sucked into a meeting. And I mean, we were pretty strict. We fudged a couple of the rules to make sure that every game lasted an hour or less, which for 8 to 10 people playing Formula D is ridiculous.
It's impressive.
It is. I've played Formula D 80 something times, easy 80 something times.
Wow.
So yeah.
simultaneous races going on, he said.
Yeah, we had there was a period of time where we had so many people that we split the league into like 6 or 8 apiece, and we would run 2 races. So
Wow.
those were the good old days before COVID.
So you guys talked about 2 other ones that I had on my short list. Camel Cup, is a game I've loved, I enjoy. I have Downforce sitting here next to me. Downforce was a game that, like, as soon as I played it, I immediately went on Amazon, bought all the maps for it. Like,
Yeah.
It wasn't even like I'll wait. It's like I gotta have it all. My favorite is the ramps. The ramps is my favorite
I love
one
the ramps
by far. I think that's so much fun. The dynamic it adds. But to throw out another game is obviously there are a lot out there. My son and I, just this last year when we were in Denver visiting, I love to search out board game cafes if I can, and just sit down, give them some patronage, buy a shirt if they've got them, and just kind of see what they're doing and see what games are popular in different areas. Because Midwest is gonna be a little different than Denver is.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, show me some of the games that are hot, some of the games that people enjoy playing here. And one of the ones you pulled out was one that I'd never played before, but had heard lots of things about, which was Steampunk Rally. And we got Steampunk Rally out. My son and I played it. It was fun. It was different. We definitely just kind of like were learning as we went, but I loved the inventors. I loved that the track formed as we went, which was a lot of fun. I would love to give it some more time and try it again. It's not like Downforce and Camel Cup alone are definitely very higher on my list than this was, but it's something else that was a unique way to look at racing. I really enjoyed what Steampunk was doing.
Yeah. Bob taught me Steampunk Rally Fusion when he got the Kickstarter version. It's really cool game. I love there's a puzzly nature to it, but then it's also like this getting through the track and everything. It's just really, really unique. So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
Rick doesn't like my.
Rick is what number are we on? Feel like 17 different titles got mentioned. Those are top 3, 4, 5, 6.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah,
I
was trying to give some love to some other games.
Absolutely.
So all the list of the list. We did skip one of our other questions though.
What is
top 3?
What is the other question?
We want to know if there was a memorable road trip story that you had, something you saw or did that you were like, whoa, this really stood out. So
yeah. No, you got a memorable road trip?
I do. So we used to take road trips all the time when I was younger. For a while, my cousins, I had cousins that lived in North Carolina, and we would go to a family reunion every year, which we would drive. And I also had cousins that lived in Florida, and we would visit Disney World every year, and we would drive there. So we did a full Eastern Seaboard tour.
Wow.
And those road trips got pretty long.
I bet.
And occasionally, you would have an accident on the freeway that would divert a bunch of traffic. And one time in particular, this was on the way back from one of the ones in North Carolina. It was a really bad. I don't actually know what the cause was. I don't remember that. I hope no one got too badly injured, but we all got diverted off to an exit, and you take an entire freeway worth of traffic and you start putting it on back roads, and it turns out things get even slower. So at one point, traffic was absolutely standstill. So, and we were now at this point not even on like side freeways, but we were just going in the middle of a town. That was where the detour had taken us. So we were actually in standstill traffic right outside an ice cream parlor. And we decided, you know what? Let's go get some ice cream. This traffic is moving so slowly that when we get back, you'll only have moved a couple blocks. We'll walk up and we'll just get back in the car.
Yeah.
And we did that. We sat there. There was quite a line because it turns out it was quite warm out. We sat there for probably 45 minutes and enjoyed our ice cream. And we sat there so long because we were informed, hey, the traffic's not moving. And when we left, they hadn't moved at all. We went back to the exact same place, and my uncle was still just sitting in the driver's seat.
just fuming.
brought him some ice cream, and it
Yeah,
was more
yeah.
better. And I like to think that that ice cream store got just absolutely amazing business that day.
Yeah, yeah.
When an
You,
entire freeway was just diverted right in front of them. And
That's
you're
hilarious.
telling the story. You're telling the story on this video podcast. Meanwhile, some grandpas. Did I tell you about the accident of '93? So
so that's probably one of the most memorable things I had. It was a summer where we got ice cream, and by the time we had finished it, traffic had not progressed.
yeah,
That's funny.
we there's been this happened to us twice. Where we jump in the car and we go just for a weekend trip with the kids. We started doing this a couple of years ago. We wanted to just kind of let the kids see different cities and stuff like that. A couple of years, it was 4 or 5 years ago, we jumped in the car, took a trip up to Tennessee. I don't even 100% know where in Tennessee we went. And as we're traveling through the Smoky Mountain, we're traveling through the bottom of the Smoky Mountains, in where like Appalachian Trail and like North Georgia area. And so
Right.
we start traveling up that way, and we get into it, and we realize there's snow on the ground. We're like, what? Like, why is there snow here? And as we're getting higher and higher and higher, we're finding that there's like 2 to 3 inches of snow. Apparently it had snowed the night before. And the roads were clear enough that we were able to drive and they weren't shut down, but there was still 2 or 3 inches of snow on the ground. And so the kids jumped out. We played in the snow for at least an hour or two. Like, being in the South, you don't see snow like that.
Oh yeah.
And it was really special. Like, just those memories of jumping and playing in the snow and grabbing a cardboard box that we found and saying, sure, this will work. Let's go.
Who needs to last an hour?
To sled. Yep.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a really good time. And that's happened to us twice, actually. Last year when I took Erin for her birthday, we went up to Tennessee, and we found it just started snowing as we were on the road, and we got to hang out in the snow for a couple hours, which was really neat. So
It's awesome. Yeah, we've taken a few longer distance road trips, but my wife and I were in college. We drove down to Largo, Florida, which is where brother lives. We had a clinical down there, and we did the drive straight down 75, end up in Florida. We were done, took the drive back up north, up 75. At that time, no internet, no cell phone with the maps. We had our trip ticks from AAA that mapped it all out for us, right? And we're taking the drive, and we hit somewhere north of Atlanta, and the weather just kind of turned on us. Super windy, stormy, dark. And I remember we're just like, man, what the heck is going on? And we keep driving, and it just gets harder and harder for me to see. The car feels like being moved around. We start looking for local radio stations. We finally come on one that says it is a tornado warning right now. In effect, you shouldn't be on the roads. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're literally driving. The tornado's coming this way, and we're trying to head back this way. So we had to make the decision. Do we keep driving north because the storm was going east-west, or do we hunker down somewhere? So we said, you know what? We don't know how far into this we are, but we've been in it for a while. So let's just keep driving north. And we eventually got to clearer weather. But that was, you think now of how, like, how all of this is at our fingertips now, how easy it is to check and see and know what's coming. And at the time, I just remember, like, we were just desperate for a radio station that could help us, right? It's a very different technological world today.
I remember I used to have an Atlas in my Toyota Corolla of states, and I was so excited the year that my mom bought me a GPS system.
Oh yeah.
We got that installed and dutifully updated it until it turned out that was absolutely obsolete. Because now I have something far more accurate, up to date, and live updates with traffic sitting in my pocket. So,
those were so. You think about like how hot those were and how quickly they became obsolete.
That was some of the shortest lived technology ever.
Yeah,
it had like a span of like maybe 8 years of relevance.
Yeah. Well, the kids still don't understand that. Like, I used to have a route. I used to drive from gas station to gas station servicing air and vacuum machines. That was my job when the kids were really little. And that was some craziness. I basically had to memorize 350 gas stations around 2 states.
Oh my
And
gosh.
but you know it like the back of your hand eventually,
Oh, yeah.
and
Just your
so
jam.
yeah,
Sure.
so
I'm sure if
Bob's
you went
right.
back there, you could hear the weird.
I printed out MapQuest directions the first year that I did that job, and then eventually you just throw the MapQuest directions out the window, and where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, the side roads.
Yeah, you start delta waving the whole thing. Like, oh, I'm at the next stop.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, Noah, we've talked about cars. Now let's talk about car combat. So, Thunder Road Vendetta. Thunder Road is an 80s game, or
Mhm.
no, 90s, right? Early 90s.
Oh, you're testing me now.
Sorry.
I don't know. So I'm going to Google it real quick.
Okay.
80s, 90s. Yeah.
I remember the box as a kid, but I never played it. And so, but it's got this Mad Max style feel. It's car combat. So anybody who grew up on Twisted Metal and Carmageddon and all that stuff, you're going to find something to love about Thunder Road Vendetta. So why don't you tell us a little about what Restoration Games has done with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So those games that we were mentioning earlier, they were all really great racing games, but they were missing a couple things like fire and missile launchers.
Yeah.
So we're bringing the heat. Thunder Road Vendetta. The base game is we tried to make it faithfully recreate the feeling that you have when you're playing that game. So we still have the detachable boards, that kind of endless road. The game does not end until someone is down. At the very least, this game is lasting until someone has been eliminated. And once someone has been eliminated, then it actually turns into a real race. Whoever gets off the edge of the board is the winner. But until that point, there's just more road. And we took a couple of the things that tend to exist a lot in older games and tried to just give them a little bit more strategy and nuance. So the old game was roll and move. We added an extra die, and you get to kind of pick how you're moving. This is certainly still a dice checker. You are rolling absolutely piles of dice. If you don't like dice games, this is not the one for you.
Yeah.
But there are lots of ways to plan out so that the dice are going to go in your favor. If you're attacking someone with a larger car and you're slamming into them, then whoever's larger has an advantage in resolving that slam and deciding who goes where. Or if you're a smaller car, then you try not to get into too many slams, but you're a lot harder to shoot because you're smaller, more nimble.
Right.
So we tried to take some of the base elements and just add layers on top that just let you get a little bit more nuance, like the car sizes. We added more different types of hazards, so that instead of just the wrecks of other cars, you now have oil slicks, or you have mines, or you could just get some mud. We had different terrain types.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we just started brainstorming and got 3 expansions worth of additional content. So
Wow.
you want to play with a giant combat caravan, you can play Big Rig in the Final 5. If you want just more varied road terrain, you can play Carnage at Devil's Run, which adds fire and toxic goo and just more chaos and more boards. Or my personal favorite for expansions is Chop Shop, which adds the ability to trick out your cars so they can all have upgrades.
Nice.
And also adds crew leaders. So that gives you a slightly different set of special actions that you can take on your turn that give everyone just a little bit of a different flavor. I wouldn't call it necessarily an advantage, but it's an edge that if you use it properly will help put you in the lead.
That's
or
cool.
put other people in the wall.
So Aaron and I played the base game at Origins with one of the people that was running the demo at the restoration booth. It was awesome, and I've actually played it online. Played it with Suzanne and Brothers Murph, I believe.
That sounds right.
So Man, it is such a good game. Like it's just a lot of fun. It is crazy, over the top. It's wild. I love the fact that you can actually jump onto another vehicle. That is one of
Mhm.
my favorite things, to have a vehicle on top of another vehicle, just being like, I'm just basically just on for a ride. So it's got that camel up idea behind it, and they snap.
Camel Cup, yes.
Camel Cup. They
Yes.
snap into each other like that, which is really cool.
Mhm.
And I love just all the artwork. It has this Mad Max dystopian, like end of the world. Everything's made out of dirt. Why do you have those weird things hanging off your face? It's just really fun. It's really cool.
It's awesome. The Kickstarter page on the front says classic 1986 game.
1986. So
86.
that's correct.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that was yeah, I don't know. So Rick said Ryan's been trying to develop a car that jumps on other cars for years. That's
That'd
true.
be awesome.
Tried it with
Be
my
awesome.
Mustang. I wrecked it. Anyway.
Yeah,
So,
no, Thunder Road is a lot of fun.
yeah.
There have been a bunch of times while we've been developing this for the past, gosh, what is time? Has it been 2 years, 1 year and a half, something like that? Where technically our meeting had ended a half hour sooner, but we just wanted to keep playing, so we just extended the meeting.
Cool.
Like, yeah, this needs some more development. Also, I need another turn because I'm about to win.
Yeah. So, that's funny.
But yeah, it has this really cinematic quality to it that I personally really like. When you think of the movies like Mad Max or Death Race or anything in that vein, you imagine these scenes where a car is doing something utterly improbable and somehow landing, and it didn't completely wreck the suspension and cause the car to just sputter out. And you can really imagine those things as different effects are happening throughout the game. There's a thing that can happen when you get shot called blast off, where you roll one die to just give you a direction, and then another die tells you how far you go in that direction. And we just added this little bit where you ignore everything in between because your car is flying into the air and landing in that new space. And just that little tweak that we added really helped drive home that this car is doing something absolutely zany. It flew in the air, it landed, somehow landed on its wheels, and it's still going forward. So a lot of things like that. And then when you add in all the expansions, you can have ramps to use in the Carnage at Devil's Run, and you can go off of a ramp and land on another car.
There you go.
So there's some things that you can see that you can just very much picture what's happening, and we definitely found ourselves making little noises whenever you're playing this game. It just comes out.
Yeah.
So I did see, Noah, that you could get on. I saw a link on the campaign when I was checking it out earlier that you can play this on Tabletop Simulator, right? If you want to get a handle on the game.
Yeah. I built a TTS mod. So on Tabletop Simulator, you can play the base game and a couple of the road boards. We didn't include all of them because we're still smoothing out some of the art, which has I love the art on the roads. It's
it looks great.
It's great.
Yeah, I played it twice on Tabletop Simulator. One time prototype at Origins. I'm really excited about it. I backed it. I'm pretty pumped about it. So you guys check out the Kickstarter campaign. It is. I'm posting it again. So whatever you're viewing this on, be sure to check out that link to the Kickstarter as my dog jingles through the house. He's coming back in, and he's just like. His collar is jingling everywhere.
Celebratory. Yeah.
So
how much time we got left to take a look at this, Noah, to finish up with? How long is this on Kickstarter? So
the Kickstarter will be running through February 14th, I think at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Perfect. A couple weeks still.
Yeah, you got 2 weeks
left, and then just to celebrate Valentine's Day, you get your significant other a little bit of Thunder Road Vendetta.
Yeah, perfect. That's how I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating by telling my wife, like at 9 p.m. On February 14th, hey, I backed another Kickstarter. I just
Happy Valentine's Day, Aaron.
Happy Valentine's Day, honey. And she'll look at me and say, okay. So it's a Valentine's Day present. That's right.
Yeah, to
So,
both of us.
to both of us. So let's
So what
talk
are we
about
wrapping
what we've
with?
been playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No,
I remember we talked about Christmas gift giving a couple weeks ago. Feels like a month, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So we talked about sometimes we get it right and sometimes we don't. I gave a Christmas gift of board gaming to my daughter, our hesitant 18-year-old gamer, and she liked it.
Yes.
So Modern Art, the card game. This is a 2020 re-release. I think it was originally, I don't know. It was originally another year. But come on, put it back out in 2020, and it is really cool. It's just basically you're not bidding or anything. You're basically laying out a card each turn. Some cards have special abilities, and the amount of cards on the table dictate which artist is the most influential at that time. And so they get a certain number of points. They get 3 points, and then the second most influential artist gets 2 points, and then 1 point for the third. And then you score the cards that are of those artist color. Yeah. So Rick said, "Does Emily liking it mean that she stayed awake?" Yes. So Emily stayed awake for this game. She actually really enjoyed it. The artwork is really cool. I love that the art is on full display. There are some terrible versions of Modern Art, the original game, out there, but the art on these, let's see, the art on these get like a big card, full treatment.
I like it.
Yep. Yeah, it's got some really unique stuff. The artists that they chose are very, very different. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, we really enjoyed it, and it plays up to 5 players. And it's not the most strategic game in the world, but it plays in 20 minutes, and it's been very, very easy to get the entire family to play this.
That's a plus in and of itself. 20-minute games are hard to come by.
Yep.
That are good. Yep.
So
yeah, that are good. True.
So. Noah, what's been hitting your table, sir?
You mean playing games for fun and not
for funsy?
Let's see. I think the most recent one to hit my table that has been published has been Ruins of Arnak.
Solid.
We picked that up, and then at PAX I managed to grab the expansion.
Yep.
How's the expansion?
It's a lot of fun. So basically, it's adding more. There's more more artifacts, more gear, and also adding individual player powers. So you could be, you know what, I want to focus on playing with artifacts, or I really just like exploring and dealing with the Guardians. And I think there's something for just about every aspect of the game. There's one character that really just pushes that button.
Nice. It's awesome.
So there's if there's any part of the game that really stands out to you that you like playing around with, there's one that'll match your play style. It's a lot of fun. Ruins of Arnak, for those who don't know, for me, the way that I describe it is it's a combination of Clank and Lords of Waterdeep. Because you're doing a little bit of worker placement, you're doing a little bit of deck building, you're doing a little bit of engine building. Not too much of anything, but it really starts coming together. The first few rounds go extremely quick, and you're like, "Wait, is that it? I did 3."
Yeah. The first time I played. The first time I played, I said, "Did I mess up? Did we not read something?
It's going so fast. What's going on?" And
what happened?
The number of things that you're doing increases every round, and there's only 5 rounds, but that 5th round is
the 5th round is half the game. So.
Close, yeah. But that's a lot of fun. We've been enjoying that. Awesome. And the rest of the stuff that I've been playing is all stuff that isn't published yet.
Secret
but it
stuff.
will be.
And you definitely don't want to give an exclusive secret away on the game chat. That would not.
I asked if there was
nice.
anything. I'm not authorized just yet.
Okay. Well, when you do have something, tell us.
Yeah, come join us. Bob was right. I did get 2 copies of that. I gifted one to a local friend,
Nice.
So it was a good one to pick up. So I've played a few different things lately. Some things we've already talked about. So quick stuff. I'm not pandering. I feel like I'm pandering every week, but like
So
we
good.
talked about this before we started. I played this at least 4 times in the last week. Introduced it at our big game night where we play our heavy games on Thursday night. I'm like, guys, give me 15 minutes at the front end of this.
Yeah.
We're waiting on another guy. I'm gonna teach you guys this. And my one buddy, Steve, was like, I don't like quick games. I'm like, Steve, it's a mean quick game, and I know he loves mean games. And he's like, all right, I'm in. And
It
he's
is
like,
a
oh
mean
man, this game is so aggressive. But it's a mean game that we can
It's
put
good.
back in the box after 15 minutes. And it's not hours and hours of meanness drug out, right? So for me, Buried Treasure hits that sweet spot of like ramping up the mean a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob was right. We played it so much. Once I picked it up, I pulled it out. And it's pocket size. I mean, you can put everything in a deck box.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Quick, easy.
Erin's not a fan of the size of the box, so she's like, "Come on."
I totally understand
Sushi
why.
Go
Right?
10.
It's got shelf space.
It
Shelf
needs to have a little
presence
bit more
with that.
shelf space. Yeah,
And I get that, but just as easy for me to put in a deck box and good to go, right? So,
absolutely.
Bob and I have been playing some of this game, which is that's trading cards. We'll put that over there. But I played some base Res Arcana. Now we've been playing it with all the expansions, but I played it with base, just the base, for the first time in a while, and I learned something about myself as a gamer. I got frustrated with this game the first dozen or so times I played it. I loved it, but I kept losing. And my buddies, once I figured it, clicked for me. I couldn't figure out why. And they said, Isaac, you're a slow burn gamer. You like to set up your engine and then have it just go ham at the end. This does not allow that. You have to win in the first 2 or 3 rounds for this thing. And if you don't, you lose. And once I figured that out, I got good at this game.
Okay.
And Res definitely has I love playing this with a couple of my friends that we've played it probably 20 plus, maybe 30 plus times, because we all know the game and it makes it so much more like cutthroat competitive. And there's all this jockeying that's going on, but we've gotten almost bored with the draft because we love the draft part of it. So we set up like a 7 Wonders duel draft for it, put some cards face up, some face down into a pyramid, and started drafting them that way to kind of like, well, if I take that, it's going to unlock that for you. And I don't want you to have that card. So it was just kind of taking something we love and giving it just a little twist and have a little bit more fun with it. So
that's cool.
As a designer, people think that we put out a game and these are the rules and you need to play by these rules. No, not at all. Once it has hit your table, it is absolutely your game. If you don't like some subset of the stuff, don't play with it. That's totally fine. The only caveat that I put on that is that if you make all these changes and then you don't like the game, don't tell everyone that you don't like the game.
That's true. That's true.
It's now your game.
Now it's your game.
I do like that. I thought about when you said that, like Oceans, right, from North Star Games has this deck of like these overpowered, like in the deep cards, and it says like you might love some of these, you might hate some of these. If you don't like it, don't play with it, right? And I love
games
that.
are for having fun. If you're not having fun with an element, and the game is better for you personally, when you take that element out, do it. 100% do it.
Yeah,
that's why I love modular expansions to games.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking over at Overboss. Overboss has like 3 different levels that you can add to the game beyond the basic. So there's I really like that. It allows you to have that flexibility, allows you to teach an easy game to one person and then a harder game to somebody else. So it's good stuff.
I love modular expansions.
Cool.
Minor plug again. Thunder Road, all the expansions are designed that they can work with each other.
Nice.
So if you want to go whole hog, you can play on the roads made out of fire with the big rig and everyone else has a crew and just make a movie out of it.
There you go. Thunder Road Vendetta, you can check it out on Kickstarter right now, and we've put the link in there a couple times, and we'll put it in the show notes when this is after this processes. So
awesome.
So you can find us at One Board Family all over the internet. Check out oneboardfamily.com. We actually are hopefully I'll be able to have some time tomorrow to film it during the day, but we have a thing where we're going to be talking about Game of the Month, and it's going to kind of be a look back at the previous month. So we're going to talk about our January game of the month, the game that our family played the most during the month of January. And so just a heads up that one of the games that was mentioned tonight is that game. So look for that video on our YouTube channel soon. So no. No. You try, man. You're trying. So
I'm guessing it's probably in his frame and not in your frame.
No, it's in his frame.
Oh, is it?
That's my guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Game of Sidekicks. You can find us just about anywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can join us on our Game of Sidekicks Facebook board game discussion group. And one of my favorite places to be, and we talk about this a lot, is over on TikTok. I really had a lot of fun playing around with that. We've had a couple more videos that have kind of hit some hot stuff, so it's been fun talking about games and exploring. If you're not on board game TikTok, you need to, because there's some really fun people doing some really fun things over there, and highly recommend going searching #boardgames and checking everybody else out as well. But if you're over there, come give us a follow. We'd appreciate it.
There you go. Cool. And Noah, everybody can reach out to Restoration Games. You guys have so many great games in your library. So anytime you feel like coming on and giving some secret game information, we would love to have you back. So
put you on the list.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks so much. Be sure to check out Thunder Road Vendetta. It's on Kickstarter right now up until February 14th. It'll make a great gift for somebody that you love. So anyway, until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.